Hi guys, it's Hannah and welcome back to a game of Fangs and Thrones. If you're new, welcome. My name's Hannah. I make videos on YouTube in our little corner of the internet about books. If you're returning, thank you. Either way, please like and subscribe if you want to see more of my rambles. So today's video is myths and legends, retellings and reimaginings, and they've all just been clumped in together. Now I will say some of these are direct retellings, others are probably a little bit more loosely based on it and may take a little bit of explanation or investigation to get the point. There's one classic that I have that I forgot to pick up, and that is obviously the vampire classic, that is Dracula. And down the road by Dracula by Bram Stoker, and down the road so there's been so many vampire stories that take where Stoker left off and build on it. I haven't seen a direct retelling of Dracula itself, but I do know that there is a book called Deathless Girls. I cannot remember who wrote it, but it's a gorgeous cover. And that is the story of Dracula's wives before they were his wives, and I know there is a female romance in there, and that it is Jean from Jean's Bookish Thoughts as one of her top rated. So yeah, we have that one, and then there are so many. I think most if not all vampire books can trace their origins back to Dracula. So there's that one. And then the other classic that I do want to talk about is Alice in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass. Now I absolutely adore that classic. It's probably my favourite one, and it's one I read more often than any of the others. If I read any classics, it's probably going to be, like I say, it's probably going to be Alice in Wonderland or Through the Looking Glass, depending on which one I've read more recently. And Alice in Wonderland was by Lewis Carroll, thought to be inspired by Alice Liddell. And obviously Alice in Wonderland is the story of Alice. She hits her head and falls into this underground world full of whimsy and nonsense magic and a Jabberwocky. And I must admit, the Jabberwocky is my favourite poem of all time. And considering I don't read poetry very often, if at all, that's high praise. So there are a few books that take on the Alice in Wonderland, whether it's the whimsy, the idea of it, and it has been made into a couple of films, with the most recent being Alice Through the Looking Glass, which excuse me, with the most recent being Alice Through the Looking Glass, which looks at Alice, I'm talking about the Disney version, which looks at obviously what happens when she comes back, and it's quite a dark start, and that darkness does carry on through the film, so just be aware of that. But let's get back to the books. Now I do have one that I want to talk about that I don't actually have at all anymore, and that is Alice Through the Zombie Glass by Gina Showalter. Now this isn't a strict retelling or reimagining at all, but it does take on some of the key imagery from Alice, from the original Alice books. In this one, our main character Alice is the sole survivor of a car crash that kills her mother, father and her little sister. But then but the mystery comes from the fact that her father was always strict. He wasn't he didn't let the girls out after dark. He had all these sort of weird rules, and then once he dies, Alice gets a little bit more freedom, and she finds out that her father wasn't exactly nuts or crazy. He was actually being hunted by these zombie type creatures. That's not a spoiler, the book is called Alice Through the Zombie Glass, or at least one of them is, I think. And the Alice aspects come from the fact that Alice sees this little white bunny cloud in the sky whenever there's a zombie attack around. And then some of it is probably a little bit more hidden, especially as the series progresses. I think there's about 5, I want to say. But as the series progresses, it definitely morphs into its own thing. But there are elements that tie it to the original Alice in Wonderland, especially when Alice in our Zombie Slayer thinks she's thinks she is losing her mind. And the whimsy has turned into darkness. And speaking of which, we have Splintered by A.G. Howard, and A.G. Howard wrote another retelling that I'm going to talk about later. But this one follows the story of Alyssa, who hears the thoughts of plants and animals, and it's a family curse, a family gift, because obviously she thinks she's having delusions, and her mother had these delusions as well and ended up in an institution, a psychiatric ward. So, and it says on the back, madness has run in her family ever since her great-great-great-great-grandmother Alice Liddell told Lewis Carroll about her strange dreams. But as the story progresses, there are 3. It's a trilogy with a bind-up. But as that progresses, we see that Alice wasn't dreaming. The original Alice, she wasn't dreaming. She was remembering through her dreams. And this Wonderland, where Carol's was full of whimsy and light, this one is dark, dark, dark. In this one, I think it's the White Rabbit. He's actually a skeleton. And the place is Underland, not Wonderland. But obviously Alice doesn't know that. And it's right. I forgot this text is purple. But there are so many. And then we have it is the butterfly, or the caterpillar, in this one that is our guide, and he's called Morpheus, and he has his own mission. And it is such a dark, fantastical read, full of dark whimsy, if there was such a thing. But yeah, A.G. Howard has a way of taking things that are, in this one, taking things that are light and whimsical and putting a very dark but still romantic element to it. She does it in the other book as well, which I'll talk to you in a bit. So that one, while we're on the subject, the other book I want to talk to you about by A.G. Howard is a retelling of The Phantom of the Opera. I actually have another one for Phantom of the Opera as well. And obviously Phantom of the Opera, which I did read. That was a hard book to read. But we have our Phantom, Eric, who was malformed, which, yeah, for the time that worked. But it didn't, with the way that Jen Campbell explains this better than I do, but with the way that disfigurement and disability was portrayed in the media and still is today, we tend to villainize those who are different, and Eric definitely falls prey to that, bless him. He is born, some have him as malformed, some of them have him with like the scar or a burn, and he has no nose and he wears the half mask. But yeah, there's that, and I have forgotten the name of the A.G. Howard book. Hang on. The book by A.G. Howard that's a retelling of The Phantom of the Opera is Runeblood, and I listened to that as an audiobook rather than reading it, so I think some of the descriptions worked better, because if it wasn't for the audiobook, I think it might have been a bit flowery, a bit overwritten. But it worked. But Runeblood follows our main character Rune, who has a bit of a strange ability. Every time she hears an operatic aria, she can't help but sing it. It's like she's possessed. So obviously she's sent to this school that basically is an opera school. It has, and that's in France. Rune is originally American and obsessed with the Phantom of the Opera story. Little does she know that that is true. Some elements of Gaston Leroux's book were based on a real person who is currently haunting her school. And then we also have our main love interest, Thorn, who was taken in by Eric and is helping him fulfill sort of all these nefarious deeds. Then we have the last of the Phantom of the Opera retellings that I currently own is Masquerade by Terry Pratchett. And this is a book in the Discworld series, but again, with Discworld you can just sort of start wherever. But this one, the opera, it is The Show Must Go On as murder, music and mayhem run riot in the night. Opera House Ankh-Morpork, a huge rambling building where innocent young sopranos are lured to their destiny by a strangely familiar evil mastermind in a hideously deformed evening dress. Yeah, but this book does turn things on its head, because we have good old Granny Weatherwax, one of the 3 witches who reappear quite frequently in the Discworld series, and she's just not interested in mayhem. She's just there for the show. Then there is if I remember right, there is a little bit of not fat phobia in a sense, but the way fat people are treated, because our main character, this is her here, I'm assuming, it's been a while since I've read this one, but this is her here. She is a better singer than the blonde girl in front, but because the blonde girl is blonde, slim, and she can't sing for toffee, she is the star, and our main character, I think she might have witchy powers as well. But I need to reread this one. But it is a I think it's more of a satire retelling of the Phantom of the Opera, and it is, if you've read any of the Terry Pratchett books, or even anything with a very British sense of humour, this is just, yeah, with witches who don't hold anyone's nonsense. But yeah, and it's, so we have that one. Then the other Terry Pratchett book we have is one of my favourites, and I do try to reread it every so often, and that is Hogfather. Now this one is a retelling of The Night Before Christmas with some darker twisty elements, and it is so funny. Yeah, you need to read it. Then we go a little bit off track to the I want to say the books that kind of inspired this video. Now, this video isn't sponsored. These are books that I've bought with my own money and just felt inspired to talk about them in this way. So we have Stephen Fry's myth books. We have Mythos and Heroes, which tell the stories of the Greek gods and goddesses with a few classical Greek heroes. I think we have Hercules, or Heracles, as he was known in the original Greek, or Roman, I can't quite remember. But then we have the Minotaur, Theseus, as well as Athena's birth, Kronos, and all of that shenanigans. But what I really liked about these ones is they're not technically retellings or anything like that. It is just Stephen Fry telling these stories in his own particular way, and I kid you not, I read these and I heard his voice. He's can definitely tell a story, and there are certain phrases in here that just made me giggle, made me think of Stephen Fry. Then we have 2 of the Twisted Disney books. We have As Old as Time, which is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, where Belle's mother was the one who cursed the beast. And then we have Once Upon a Dream, which is Sleeping Beauty. In this one, the prince doesn't. He kisses Princess Aurora. She doesn't wake up straight away, and we follow what's going on in her dream world, which is full of twisty-turny. These are not kids' books, but I would say they are middle grade. They are quite dark in places. There's a few more. I think there's one. These two are by Liz Braswell. There's a couple more in this format. I think there's one about Peter Pan. What if Hook took Wendy for the first time? I'm sure there's an Aladdin one. There's a Frozen one and a Mulan one. The Mulan one sounds brilliant. The prince, whose name I've forgotten, gets hurt grievously. He's about to die, and Mulan has to go rescue his spirit demon, I think it is, from the underworld. So, without revealing who she is to these demons. But yeah, we have those two. Then the other ones, which I haven't read yet, but I do love me. These could count because they are superhero origin stories, I'm guessing. But we have Superman, Dawnbreaker by Matt De La Pena, Catwoman, Soul Stealer by Sarah J. Maas, who is also on this list. We have Marie Lou's Batman Nightwalker, and we have Wonder Woman Warbringer by Leigh Bardugo. And I think these are the highly anticipated coming of age stories of the world's greatest superheroes. So they are origin stories. I do like a good origin story. Then we have a King Arthur Knights of the Round Table retelling. If you couldn't tell, I am English, I am British, and I grew up hearing the stories of King Arthur and Merlin. And I did watch the BBC show, which obviously followed Merlin and Arthur when Arthur was still the prince, and it does take through to the king, to him being crowned, his marriage to Guinevere, and then the final battle where he is hurt and killed. But this is Once and Future by Amy Rose Capetta and Corey McCarthy, and this one is a gender-bent gay King Arthur retelling set in space. But basically we follow Ari, who is the female reincarnation of King Arthur. She ends up with and then she meets Merlin, who is an adolescent. He's a teenager and he is aging backwards. And then we do have some of the lesser known knights in this, I would say. Obviously we have Lancelot, but we also have Kay and Percival, and I think, if I remember right, we have Gawain. But there's so much LGBTQIA+, that's it, rep in these books, and it is just so funny. Yeah, okay, some of it is predictable and it's a bit wacky, but it's funny. There's a line in here that which I think does sum Merlin up perfectly. He is being shot at. I'm trying to be vague so I don't give spoilers, but he's being shot at, and he's like, his prisoner with him is like, well, why are you apologising that they're shooting at you? And he's like, I can't help it, I'm British. That just tickled me something. Then we have ones that I have heard are based on other stories, but not. Two I've read, so I can't confirm, and one I do understand where the inspiration came from. So we have Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas, and this is inspired in part by Cinderella, by the specific scene in which Cinderella is fleeing from the ball. And I have heard, correct me if I'm wrong, but I have heard that her other series, A Court of Thorns and Roses, is based on either Little Red Riding Hood or Beauty and the Beast. I guess I haven't read them, so I could be wrong. Then we have a Beauty and the Beast retelling, A Curse So Dark and Lonely by Bridget Kemmerer, which has a really shiny spine, so apologies for any glare. And this one obviously follows Prince Ren, who I haven't read this, but we have Prince Ren, who is cursed. He's forced to repeat the autumn of his 18th year, and obviously he can only be free if a girl falls for him, and I think everybody's getting sick of it. Then we have Harper, who obviously ends up somehow magically involved in all of this, and I have heard that Harper has cerebral palsy, and I have heard that it is quite good representation for that. So that's an interesting one. I love seeing just badass female characters who have the odds stacked against them for whatever reason, and they push through it. So yep. And then the last one on this list is Spinning a Silver by Naomi Novik. I think I said that right, but this one has a bit of a Russian theme, and I think it's because I've just seen the word Tsar. But we have this one seems to be a bit of a Rumpelstiltskin retelling, as we follow Miriam, who is the daughter of the village moneylender, but they're threatened with poverty as her father is too kind-hearted to claim on these debts. But Miriam takes up that job. Her success creates rumours that she can turn silver into gold, which attract the Fairy King of Winter. If she fails, she dies. If she triumphs, a fate worse than death awaits. I wonder if he's going to try and marry her. It seems to be the way that fairy tales go. But then we also follow Irina, and her father schemes to wed her to the Tsar. So I think there might be another fairy tale element in there. So yep, we have quite a few just from a little glimpse into the shelves, the Library of Hannah. But if you can think of any that I've missed, or any that you agree with me on, or any that you disagree on, or any that you found that you think I would enjoy, let me know in the comments below. I'll be hanging around there anyway. I always do try to like and comment or respond to you guys' comments down below anyway. So yep, if you agree, if you disagree, if you have recommendations that follow the reimagining, retelling, myths, legends theme that I've got going on here, let me know, and I'm not going to attempt to pick these up, and it's time to put them back.